Hi there, this is Timothy Dolan. And what I'm doing here is sending out a metaphorical message in a bottle to somebody who's kind of my boss. You be the judge. It's David Risher, who happens to be the CEO for the rideshare company Lyft, which I drive for and have driven for a number of years. And the reason I'm putting this out is that I think, like most heads of large organizations, they know a lot, and I'm sure he keeps his pulse on operations very closely, but that doesn't mean that they always know everything. And I just want to make this very, very clear. This is not either a hit piece or a whistleblowing thing. It's nothing like that. But let's move on and all will be revealed. So to summarize, here's David Risher. I saw him on the Prof G Markets podcast recently and was quite impressed. He seems to be a happy guy, and he's one of the people that I choose to work for. I do have choices in the matter. And I work exclusively with Lyft. I don't work with Uber, even though their former CEO, who I felt was a psychopath, is no longer in charge there. But that's the distinction. I think Mr. Risher is a nice guy. He certainly comes across that way. And again, I enjoy that. I like his vibe. I like his management style so far as I know it, and that really just extends to his interview with Scott Galloway recently. But I've always felt good about driving for Lyft for a number of reasons. Now, I must say, I don't know if I fit the Lyft driver profile. I mean, it's not as if we are unionized. I don't know too many of the other folks who drive for Lyft, except for my son, who happens to. And also drives for Uber. But let's move on to this. So about me, I do drive for Lyft, and this gives you a little bit of a summary. Over 5,000 rides, a 5.0 rating, which I believe I've always had, and over a 7.9-year period. That began in Palm Desert, California. At the time, I was taking care of my late mother's place and had abundant free time, and decided to drive for Lyft at that time, and did for about a year down there, and it was fine. At that time, I was driving at night, and it was really a mix of largely medical runs, taking people to dialysis, because after all, insurance companies love rideshare. We are probably a tenth the price of a medical transport, and certainly 100th the price of an ambulance. And believe me, I've taken people to emergency rooms, and it's been a bargain. So that was sort of the start of my relationship with Lyft. Fast forward, I moved back to Ashland, Oregon. For those who are not familiar with the state, Ashland is located roughly 14 miles over the California state line. In Oregon, what I call California's Canada. And it was at that point there was a bit of a hiccup, because when I did re-up for Lyft, and of course I was in a new state, but Lyft, for whatever reason, seemed to think that anybody driving in Oregon is driving in Portland, and was requiring me to have a business license, which the city of Portland does require. Even though I'm 300 freaking miles away from that place, and I would never drive in Portland. It took quite a bit of negotiation. I had to get a vehicle inspection, and once again, I had to go to Salem, Oregon, which is about 250 miles away from where I live, for a vehicle inspection, only to arrive and find out that the vehicle inspection station was closed for inspections at 2 o'clock that day. So I basically wasted my time and made a 500-mile round trip for nothing. I pressed on. I did manage to get a hold of somebody at a call center who finally green-lighted me once they understood my situation, my literal situation in Southern Oregon. And it was off to the races. It was all quite generally good. I like doing rideshare because everybody appreciates a ride. 99.9% of folks I've given rides to are good folks, and it's not like I am, know them personally, but you get little windows into people, and some people do become regulars. And it's a good way of just making human contact and developing relationships. So that part of it is fine. I should also mention, I suppose, that I'm also on the faculty of American University in Washington, D.C. as a strategic foresight specialist. Funny story there, because in April and May of this year, I was supposed to have taught 2 seminars on strategic foresight and risk management, and strategic foresight and leadership development to federal employees in Washington, D.C., in a kind of a hybrid program. And then, of course, came the purge. And so that kind of evaporated. I lost 11 grand in that deal. That's what happened to me. But it's not like I am fretting over it. It is what it was. And I've settled back into driving Lyft, which I do to supplement my income. It gives me travel money and such. Now let's get to the case in point and the current little bit that Mr. Risher may be or may not be interested in knowing about. And that is, again, simply following up my career with Lyft. I have achieved what's called elite status, top tier. And it's nice. It gives me minor perks, mostly discount gas, which is great. I really do like the Lyft debit card, and I like how easy it is to transfer funds that I've accrued from Lyft into my regular accounts. So kudos for all of that. Moving along. However, this happened, and this was a couple of weeks ago. Suddenly, I am not able to drive on Lyft because there was what was called a DMV check. And it really had to do with a situation where I had accrued 3 tickets, violations, citations, over a 2-year period, none of which, by the way, was in my capacity as a Lyft driver. However, that did happen. So I was issued a letter, and the letter cited these 3 violations and basically said that as a result, for 30 days, I would not be able to drive between the hours of midnight and 5 a.m., which I never drive. And a cursory review of my driving record with Lyft, where they keep careful tabs on that, will confirm it. So what this is in essence a yellow card, to use a soccer analogy, by the state of Oregon's DMV. I have made this, clear to the folks and or bots at Lyft through the app, and then through someone who did interact with me in a very minor way to hopefully clear up the matter. But it's been a while, and I'm still on hold. And it's unfortunate because, just a quick review on what is happening here in Ashland. Ashland, Oregon is what I would call a destination. It's not really a resort town, but it is a destination. It is the home of the Oregon Shakespeare Festival, which is the largest repertory theater complex in the United States. And we get numerous tourists from the Bay Area and from Seattle. They tend to be what I would call hoity-toity, in that they're coming up to see these classic plays and some new productions that are done with the Shakespeare Festival. By the way, Mr. Risher, if you ever care to come up, you'll have a great time here. People love it. Nobody does not like being in Ashland. And that makes it very, again, for me, pleasant to drive here. Another quick digression. I've lived in resort towns a lot. And in fact, in high school and my early college years, I lived in Anaheim, California, 2 miles from Disneyland. The upshot is, and not always, but with visitors who come, I often conduct them as we're driving into town because usually I'm taking them into town for restaurants. Ashland is a food network mecca, by the way. The I point out like the top 50 New York Times restaurant and other little bits and pieces about the town. So my role is similar to that as the guide on the Jungle Cruise. There's your Disneyland analogy. So it's as I said, it's pleasant. It's a nice town. I like driving in it. I'm very familiar with it, and I take people into Medford. It's a different vibe, often on airport runs, and then of course when I'm in Medford, it's a bit of a black hole. Let me just get back, cut to the chase here. I'm not driving now, and I'm not driving because there appears to be this snafu where Lyft people or bots, I have no idea, are somehow keeping me from doing my job at the peak of the tourist season. That's unfortunate. Again, it's not catastrophic for me. I would rather be doing that, but now I am finishing a deck that I was building in the back, and I'm retiling our bathroom. So, like I'm keeping busy. It's not like I'm in despair over any of this. And again, I have no idea what the typical Lyft driver profile is, but that's how I am.